Can the China Spaceplane capture Elon Musk Starlink satellites? Let's dig in a little. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning and focus. So good, so good. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a tech day. We're going to be talking about something that could be controversial, but it's not because we just have hard data, hard facts that we want to go over. And it has to do with China's new space plane. When I look at this plane, it looks kind of like the X-37B or maybe like a mini version of the space shuttle, like the Space Shuttle Columbia or something like that. Very interesting. Very interesting. So I want to get into this a little bit with you. I was reading this article over on Space News. I want to talk to you about the possibility of a plane, a Chinese plane, to be able to fly up into LEO and then pull up next to let's say one of the Starlink satellites, rendezvous with it, and then manipulate it or do whatever they want with it. Is this a possibility? Well, before I read this article, I would never have thought that it would be, but it kind of is. Before we get into this article, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks as of yet, go check them out. They are free of charge. Go to JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. Also, if you enjoy this content, even the least, throw it a thumbs up. That would be great. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Click this little button over here so when I go live and when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. Also, if you just want to say thank you for all of my hard work, there's a little thank you button down here that you can push. If you would like to give $1 or $2, that would be much appreciated. If not, that's all right too. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. Also, if you want more Starlink content, there's about 150 blogs, vlogs, videos. Now they're called podcasts, I guess. I put together this playlist just for you. Go check them out. Maybe I'll put a link right here. All Starlink helpful how-tos, tips, tricks, all kinds of commentary, what to buy, what not to buy, why. Once again, this channel is always about the why, not just the how. There's so many how channels out there, but I want to give you the why. The why is more important, in my personal opinion. Also, we're still doing the 3,000 push-up challenge for the St. Jude's Research Children's Hospital. Try to give $1, maybe a $2 or something like that. That would be fantastic. There'll be a donation button down here. I'm trying to raise $1 per push-up. I'll be doing those 3,000 over the course of May. So every one of my videos will have a donation button down there that will be just for St. Jude. And every single dollar, YouTube has told us, every dollar goes directly to the charity. YouTube doesn't even take a penny. Wow. Thank you, YouTube. That is fantastic. Also, if you're looking for a VPN or if you need faster internet speed, or for me, more reliability, check out Speedify. That's what I've been using on all of my live streams. It works out awesome. Bonding internet connections together. Right now, we're bonding Starlink as well as T-Mobile together to make a faster connection, a redundant connection, and even more importantly, a connection that does not fail if one goes down. So if you want to check that out, I have a promo code. Use JCristina at checkout over at Speedify, or simply just go to the link that I'll put down below in the pinned comment or the description. It's jcristina.com/speed. Once again, jcristina.com/speed, and you just get 20% off the already low price. I think they have a special going on right now for summer. Anyways, you guys go check it out. So let's get into this article, and then I want to give you my commentary on it. And more importantly, I want to know what your thoughts are on it. Once again, this is not conspiratorial kind of nonsense. This is actually hard facts, and I want to know what you think about it. Now, the title of this article is China Spaceplane Conducts Proximity and Capture Maneuvers with Sub-Satellites. Now, just by the name, it kind of clued me off. I'm like, my goodness, this is very interesting. My question was originally, well, how high, or when they're talking about sub-satellites, how high are they actually capturing these satellites? And I'm going to get into that in just a minute. You will be surprised. I know I was. Anyways, the article starts out with, China's secretive spaceplane may have performed multiple recaptures of an object it released into orbit during its recently completed second flight as part of an on-orbit test. This is very interesting because what that means is this vehicle, this spacecraft, the space plane, has actually captured and then released and then recaptured and released an object, a satellite. Anyways, the article continues. Private firm Leo Labs, which provides space situational awareness data through its global network of radars for tracking objects in low Earth orbit, said its analysis found evidence of what appears to be at least 2 and possibly 3 capture and docking operations with a co-orbiting object, a satellite. China's clandestine spaceplane launched October 4th, 2022, embarking on its second flight, 2 years after its first, for a 4-day-long mission. Its second flight ended with a horizontal landing May 10th after 276 days in orbit. What does that mean? That basically means that it landed horizontally just like a plane, just like what we used to see the space shuttle did back in the 80s, right? It landed like a plane on its wheels, came back down after 276 days in orbit. Keep that in mind. U.S. Space Force's 18th Space Defense Squadron tracking data revealed an object in a closely matching orbit to the spaceplane October 31st, 2022, NORAD ID 54218. This companion subsatellite was used in a series of rendezvous and proximity operations, or RPOs, with the spacecraft according to Leo Labs. Keep in mind, RPOs are rendezvous and proximity operations. That is very important going forward. This is what this can do, this object, this space plane. Leo Labs stated this, quote, analyzing data from the global radar network, we've determined that the test spacecraft 2, which is basically the Chinese space plane, has propulsive capabilities and engaged in proximity operations with Object J, including what appears to be at least 2 and possibly 3 capture docking operations. Once again, what this means is this space plane was able to rendezvous with an object, a satellite, and capture it, dock with it, bring it on board, and then, once again, release it. We'll get into that in just a second. Leo Labs' assessment of on-orbit activities highlight 3 periods of RPO. Once again, rendezvous, proximity, operations. One period between November 25th and December 24th last year shows 2 spacecraft either docked or spaced very closely, with a possible docking performed on November 25th and or the 26th. A second docking was noted to take place on January 10th this year in a second phase of this operation. A later phase between February 20th and March 29th was similar to the previous and, quote, featured what appears to be apparent forced separation, followed by a rendezvous and formation flying. 54218, the companion satellite, was once again observed to maneuver independently of its parent craft. What this means is it took this craft, this 54218, let's say, this satellite, brought it on board, connected with it, and then once again forced released it back into orbit, and then it started moving around on its own once again. So what this means is that this RPO was successful. So basically the space plane was able to pull up next to the satellite, kind of like an Uber driver, pick up the satellite, bring it on board, hold on to it for a while, for however long, and then once again release it, and now the satellite was able to move on its own, maneuver on its own. Very interesting. Leo Labs noted on a minimum of 5 occasions the companion satellite demonstrated what appears to be independent propulsive activity. Basically, it just took off on its own. The spaceplane's operations will likely gain attention outside of China, particularly with regard to docking and capture operations and the possible use of such capabilities. Brian Whedon, the director of program planning for the Security World Foundation, said this, quote, based on what we do know, it seems like the Chinese and American spaceplane programs are being used in a similar fashion, primarily as a testbed for new technologies and capability demonstrations. It's hard to tell for sure what technologies or capabilities exactly, as both governments are pretty secretive about the details. What I find fascinating fascinating is the perception surrounding each program. When the X-37B started flying, it generated a lot of concern from the Chinese about the potential for it to be used as a weapon, a concern they have mentioned in recent multilateral discussions on space security. Like I said about that X-37B, this plane that we see, the Chinese space plane, the damn thing looks identical to that X-37B, but I'll get into that in just a second. It continues with a statement from the space plane's maker, which is CASC, released after May 10th's landing, claimed that the project, quote, will provide a more convenient and inexpensive way to access space for the peaceful use of space in the future. Whedon also said this, quote, we know that the X-37B has also deployed several sub-satellites on previous missions, but there isn't the public tracking data to be able to tell if it did RPOs or not. Once again, RPOs, those rendezvous, right? Propulsive operations, those are the difference between just going up there and releasing a satellite in comparison to going up there and pulling up alongside of a satellite, grabbing it and releasing it. That is a different story altogether. That's at a different hierarchy, let's say, of capacity or capability. And that is what is so important here. And we saw that the Chinese space plane was able to do it on multiple occasions. So the article finalizes with this. Leo Labs stated that their observation data indicated the landing was around 12 a.m. UTT on May 8th. Leo Labs previously highlighted that the space plane made a large change in its orbit in April, likely in preparation for the spacecraft to land. The mission was used by the company to test its capabilities. Now, at the end of the article, of course, Leo Labs have to toot their own horn because if you don't toot it, who in the hell is going to toot it, right? So they finalize with this, quote, this event tested Leo Labs' object tracking and maneuver detection and characterization capabilities, proving that we can provide critical intelligence on the behaviors of activities of HIOs, thanks to our continuous real-time observations. Good job, Leo Labs. Either which way, I think it's fantastic because now we know exactly what happened, what's going on. And knowing this, I think, is once again very important. When I look at this plane, this Chinese space plane, like I said, is identical to the X-37B. It is like a mini version of a space shuttle Columbia, let's say. I just don't understand how the Chinese can make something that is so identical to something that the US already has. Where do they get the schematics for this stuff? Where do they get the blueprints? How does this happen? All right. This isn't conspiracy stuff, right? This is just thought. I would love to know this. When you look at the planes, I mean, even the placement of the heat tiles, which are basically ceramic tiles, so when it goes back into the atmosphere, it doesn't burn up. Matter of fact, that's how one of the space shuttles blew up. The tiles ripped off, and once those heat tiles ripped off, it just burned up the entire vehicle. What I think is interesting here is obviously we do not have evidence of the X-37B, which is the US version of this plane, doing any of these maneuvers, right? Those RPO maneuvers or those rendezvous and propulsive operational maneuvers where it can literally pull alongside of a craft, let's say a satellite, do whatever it wants to do, dock with it and then release it. We don't have evidence of this, but that's okay. Chances are we can do it also, because if the Chinese can and they're using the identical copy of what we have, well, chances are we probably have the exact same vehicle that they do, so most likely we can do it. But what I found very interesting researching the Chinese space plane is the height or the altitude in which that it can operate. I think you'll find this fascinating also. Bear in mind, geocentric satellites are at thousands of kilometers above Earth, whereas LEO or low Earth orbiting satellites are around 300 to, let's say, 600 kilometers. Elon Musk Starlink satellites operate right around 530 to, let's say, 550 kilometers. Now, looking at where this plane has flown in the past, it has made it to an altitude in this last mission where it was up there for 276 days, up to just under 600 kilometers, 593 kilometers to be exact. What does that mean? That means that at any minute during the 276 days or in the next mission, it could literally pull up next to a Starlink satellite that's sitting there in LEO at 545 kilometers, pull up next to it and grab the damn thing if it wanted to, or do whatever it needs to do with it. Think about that. So, are these vehicles going to be just like trash vehicles, like your trash truck or your garbage truck that comes by and just flies around the Earth and just grabs dead satellites and chucks them back into orbit to have them burn up? Or are these going to be used in a military sense to be able to, let's say, commandeer satellites? Now, if it was one of Elon Musk Starlink satellites, it's like a version 1 or even a version 1.5s that are more transmissional based. Okay, I can see if there's a problem with it. Well, if it got commandeered, let's say, and taken out, oh well, there's 4,000 more of them. But how about when we put, as I speculated a year ago, POPs or point of presence or NOCs, network operation centers, on these big satellites, the big ass ones, the version 2.0s that will, I guess in the future, hopefully, once Starship doesn't blow up any longer, are launched into space. When we see those big ones that literally can have now basically the capacity of a network operation center, that's no longer just this transient thing of data bounced around continuously, but a data house or a operational center, a data center in LEO. Once this is to happen, as I've predicted a year ago, we don't know if it's going to happen, but I do believe it will. Now, all of a sudden, when someone rendezvous with that, it has access to a lot. Once again, this is a data center. This is no longer just transient data going back and forth. This will house a lot of information. So if you pull up alongside of it, what can you do with it now? So I guess the question would be, what are the ramifications of this vehicle flying up into LEO and being able to RPO or pull up in rendezvous with any one of Elon Musk's satellites? I would imagine that this is probably common knowledge for Elon and the rest of the team, and they're probably taking measures to prevent such a thing to happen. I don't know, but I do think that it's fascinating, and I really want to know your thoughts on it. I think the idea of what is going on here is amazing, and having a plane that can literally travel up to 600 kilometers in altitude is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Once again, it is like back to the time of the space shuttle, which of course a certain president decided to shut down. So hopefully we can have things like that once again. While shooting up 51 satellites in the cone section of a Falcon rocket is cool and all, it would be really nice to have an entire payload in an old space shuttle, for example, to be able to put those out there into LEO. And then with its arm, if you remember, grab satellites that it needs to grab and do work on them and then release them again. Anyways, I want to know your thoughts about this. What do you think about the Chinese space plane? What do you think about how it looks in comparison to the X-37B? Is it similar to you? It sure is to me. What do you think about all of this? I want to know your thoughts down below. Let's have a conversation about it. I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's cool. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, even the least, throw it a thumbs up. That would be very, very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to click this little button over here so when I go live and when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years. And hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.